Hello, and welcome to KRAD COVID readings for Trek Tuesday. I'm Keith R.A. DeCandido, doing my bit to cure the coronavirus blues, mostly by reading stuff I've written. This year in particular, I've been reading my Starfleet Corps of Engineers stories that I wrote as part of the Star Trek line of fiction. And this week we've got the final part of Invincible Book 1 by David Mack and me. Don't worry, even though it ends on a horrible, horrible cliffhanger, we'll be back next week with the start of Book 2. It's all of a piece. Anyway, so we finally do this last part of Invincible Book 1. Reminder, please, to check me out online if you like this reading. In particular, if you could support my Patreon, that would be awesome. It's at patreon.com/crad. I write TV and movie reviews. I give you excerpts from my work in progress, first looks at my first drafts, vignettes featuring my original characters, and best of all, cat pictures. Anyway, here is the final part of Invincible Book 1. First Officer's Log, Commander Sonya Gomez, Planet Sarindar, Stardate 53281.2. Today at noon, we will be doing our first test of the annular confinement beam. This is the most important test we've done so far, as the ACB is an important component of the subspace accelerator. The ACB is similar to the kind used in transporters, but much more powerful by several orders of magnitude. It'll be used to clear a path of vacuum through the planet's atmosphere, through which the payloads of Chimerium will be accelerated with an 8 nanosecond high warp pulse that will drive them up to the refinery. I've been a bit concerned about this particular aspect of the SA, as it's the most experimental in as much as no one's ever, to the best of my knowledge, created an ACB on this scale. It's also a very good thing that I, or at least someone from Starfleet, was assigned to this project before this test was done. The power systems for the ACB were not sufficiently recalibrated for the increased power. The nature of the ACB is such that as the beam increases in size, you have to increase the power output logarithmically, not exponentially. If they built this up to the original specs as mandated by my predecessor, the best case scenario would be that the ACB would burn out and shut down. Worst case, the entire SA would have exploded in a fiery mess. People probably would die, and the project would have to start over from scratch. The original schedule the project had been on when I arrived didn't have this test being attempted for another 2 weeks. My own revised schedule had it for 2 days from now. I would like to formally commend the foreperson, Kajana, my assistant, Razga, and the assistant foreperson, Jiro, for their exemplary work in putting the project ahead of schedule despite the numerous impediments that have been placed in our path. Morale has improved tremendously since the unfortunate incident with the so-called monster shii. I am still awaiting an autopsy report from Dr. Dolan on the nature of the creature. However, my killing the thing has elevated me in the eyes of the Nalori workers. Many have taken to following Jiro's example and calling me Sanyul. I have tried to discourage this, but to no avail. I'm not entirely comfortable with the fact that it has taken me killing an animal to gain the respect of the workers. On the other hand, I can't argue with the results. We've worked the bugs out of the antimatter reactor. The magnetic containment system is up and running, and will be ready to bring the antimatter pods online tomorrow. In addition, when I informed Kajana and the workers assigned to the ACB that we'd have to so radically change the power system's output, his response to my criticism of the methods employed by my predecessor, for the first time since I arrived, was not hostile. Now it is simply a question of waiting until noon when we get our pulsar quasar window. Personal Log, Commander Sonya Gomez, Planet Sarindar, Stardate 53281.2. I have learned several valuable lessons these last few days. The first, and most depressing, is that if you want to gain the respect of a party of Nalori workers, kill a mutated animal, or whatever that overgrown shii was, that attacked your camp. All the sexism, all the anti-Federation sentiment, seems to have disappeared since we came back to the camp with the corpse of the monster shii. The second is that I am no good at eulogies. We held a funeral service for Kelrek, Salgood, and Mokay the day after I killed the shii. Nalori death rituals are fairly straightforward. The bodies are burned, and a person of authority, of any authority, it doesn't have to be someone religious, commends their souls to the afterlife. To be precise, according to the crash course Razga gave me prior to the funeral, their deaths must be announced through the Shigamas, so that they can welcome their Maza into the endless wind. This was something else missing from the cultural database I read on the Da Vinci. I tried suggesting that the ever-evangelical Zildar as a substitute, but the Nalori would hear none of it. Zildar is an infidel as far as they're concerned. Zildar's predictable response was, "Give me time, I'll convert you all." Of course, I'm as much of an infidel, but Razga said that I was the only person on the planet qualified. I'm just grateful that the ritual calls for burning. Burial wouldn't be possible on the glassy surface of Sarindar. Still, I did my best, which was pretty awful. I see no reason to commit the stumbling, awkward mess to the record. I pointedly turned my tricorder off before the funeral. But suffice it to say, the Shigamas were suitably, if not always intelligibly, informed of the incoming Maza. The third is I need to double-check everything. I made what could have been a huge mistake by assuming the power output on the annular confinement beam was properly adjusted for the size of the ACB, and it wasn't. Since the diagnostic programs were created by the same people who got the ratios wrong, no error was detected, especially since there's no point of reference for an ACB this powerful. Giro expressed a concern that the nodes might not be able to handle the additional power, but I made sure the auto-shutdown features were up and running in case of such a difficulty. The fourth is that I've gotten remarkably dependent on a tricorder. On a planet so loaded with chimerium, a tricorder is often little more than a glorified paperweight. That's not entirely fair. Medical tricorders still function. Certain data can still be examined, and I'm of course recording this log on it, but there's still a lot I can't do. Every time there's a problem, and there's always a problem, no matter how smoothly things might be going at any given point, my instinct is to whip out the tricorder. I did it when the shii attacked Port Kelrek, and I've done it any number of times with the equipment. I'm tempted to just leave the thing in my tent, but it doesn't feel right to walk around the surface of a planet without the familiar weight at my side. Still, I spent more time opening up the guts of machinery than even I'm used to. The fifth is that the best way to guarantee that Dr. Dolan will never do something is to tell him that it isn't top priority. It's been several days since I told him I needed an autopsy of the monster shii, but he still hasn't gotten to it yet. It was Zildar who explained my tactical error in saying that it wasn't top priority. Apparently, the only way Dolan ever does anything is if you emphasize that you need it right away. Even then, he may not get to it for days. Of course, this isn't really a top priority. I'm curious as to how this creature evolved, especially since all the evidence does seem to point to it being an aberration. We saw plenty of other shii, all of a size commensurate with the anthropological reports. And don't think Dolan hasn't enjoyed reminding me of that. I've decided to keep the electrified fence up as a precautionary measure, even though none of the other shii we encountered showed any interest in us. Still, it's a side concern. The main thing is to get the project finished. I'm happy with our progress, and even happier with the smoother working relations, whatever the reason. But mostly I just want this to be finished so I can get back to the Da Vinci. It's gotten to the point where I'm not even impressed by the crystalline ecology. When I got here, it was a beautiful new world. Every time the sun struck a tree or a bush, resulting in a spectrum burst, I was captivated. I don't even notice them anymore. Looking back over that, I'm getting depressed. 10 years ago, I came out of the academy, hell-bent to seek out the unknown, to experience what was out there in deep space. I wanted to see it all. I didn't want to miss a thing. Of course, what I got was the Borg and a rather brutal lesson in being careful what you wish for, but that didn't change my overall desire. Damn it, I'm not going to become one of those moldy officers who treats a new world as just another mission to go on instead of an adventure. I didn't join Starfleet to slog from one mission to the next. Next time I see a spectrum burst, I will stop and stare at it. Damn it. Supplemental. The test of the ACB was an unqualified success. The full results are appended to my main log, but suffice it to say the power nodes were able to handle the additional input. The beam successfully shunted all the air out of the way and held its integrity for the entire time the window was open. And it shut down smoothly. One thing I hadn't been expecting, the ACB's brightness is such that all the nearby trees give off some pretty amazing spectrum bursts. Even some of the Nalori, who never seemed to be in the least bit interested or impressed with the local light shows, gasped appreciatively at that. When Raska announced that the window was closing and we shut down the beam, a huge cheer went up. They started crying, "Sanyul!" again, and this time I just let them. It would have been churlish to deny them at this point. The other good news is that we received assorted communiques. Zildar and I went straight to the tent that held the comm equipment and went through what we had received during the window. Most were of a personal nature and would be saved to individual pads by Zilder later. 2 were from me, one from the Da Vinci and one from the Nalori government. I was eager to hear from Kieran and the rest of the S.C.E, but the other one was unexpected, so I told Zilder to put it on screen. A particularly long male Nalori face appeared. He looked pretty sallow, and his beard had more gray than violet. I had spoken to this man, the senator in charge of the project, once on the Culloden en route to Sarindar, but I couldn't for the life of me remember his name. Zilder conveniently came to my rescue. With as disdainful a tone as I'd ever heard him use, he said, "Senator Moya, everybody's favorite person. I wonder what pearls of wisdom he has to offer." "This message is to inform you, Commander Gomez, that we are less than impressed with your performance to date. The accelerator is still behind what we consider an acceptable schedule. When we asked Starfleet for assistance, we were assured that we'd be getting the best. I have seen nothing in the preliminary reports to indicate that you could be given that description. We removed Nalag because he was behind schedule. While you have improved on his work, you are still performing your task at below par. Either you are incompetent, or Starfleet's standards are lower than I was led to believe. If you have not brought this project to what we deem an acceptable level, we will have to consider having you replaced." That was it. I stared in open-mouthed shock at the screen for several seconds. "Honig," Zilder muttered, shaking his head. "Nalag quit. They didn't remove him. Can you believe that?" Having dealt with enough bureaucrats in my time, I had to say, "Unfortunately, I can." Should I prepare a reply? I thought about several creative ways to respond to that particular message. Then I got an inspiration. Smiling, I said, "No. When the next window opens, send all the results and reports on the ACB test we have at that point as a reply." Any accompanying message? "None. Let the results speak for themselves." Zilder also smiled. "Honig is smiling on you today, Commander." I laughed. Whatever. I downloaded the message from the Da Vinci to a pad and then went back to the camp. After finishing the day's work, I ate with the workers, something I've been doing every night since I killed that shii. It's been fun hearing the different stories. Then I read the Da Vinci message, which turned out to be from Kieran. "Hey, Sonny. Well, things are business as usual here on the old homestead. Captain Gold got a nice message from his granddaughter. Her child's going to be a girl, and she and his grandson-in-law are arguing over the name. I started a betting pool, which the captain is pretending not to know about. Right now, Judith is the favorite. Let's see. Patty went into a fit yesterday. Carol got another recording of that Sinravian drab music she likes so much. It's the latest from that person who founded the atonal minimalist subgenre. She's been playing it over and over again. I really wish you were here, because then you'd get to listen to Patty request a new roommate. I hate being the first officer. You do know that, don't you? I miss you. And not just because I want you to be first officer again. We had to crawl inside the guts of a derelict Tellarite freighter yesterday, and you know more about those weird, overpowered engines they insist upon. Fabe nearly blew the thing up. It was pretty ridiculous. We got out of it okay, though. There have been some nasty rumblings coming from the general direction of Deep Space Nine. Apparently they were attacked. There's a rumor going around that the Defiant was destroyed. I'll let you know. I'm sure you don't get much Starfleet gossip out on that crystal ball of yours. Well, I gotta go. It's my turn to run engineering. Talk to you later, Sonny, and try not to have too much fun. Razka came in as Kieran was finishing up. "Is that your mate?" he asked. I took a long enough pause that Razka probably thought I didn't hear him, and he repeated the question. "I guess you could say that, sort of. Do you like your mate?" I smiled. Whatever else I could say about how I felt about Kieran, I could safely say that I liked him. "Yeah, I do." Razka looked thoughtful. "I haven't liked any of mine." At that, I couldn't help but laugh, which turned out to be okay because he laughed too. Then he took out 2 mugs and started to pour some Saurian brandy. Gazing askance at him, I said, "I thought we finished Entor's stash." "We did. You think Entor's the only one who smuggled in brandy?" "My mistake." He handed me 1 mug, then raised his. "2 mates. We cannot live with them, but we really cannot live without them either." I raised my mug as well and decided not to tell Razka that he had just quoted a very old human cliché. Personal log, Commander Sonya Gomez, Planet Sarindar. Stardate 53283.0. Another good day. The antimatter pods are online and working well. The tubing is almost finished. The dish is finished. The delivery system will be online in 2 more days, a week ahead of schedule. We seem to have finally gotten the bugs out of all the sensor pallets, and the mining mechanics are almost finished as well. Best of all, I was distracted no less than 4 times by a spectrum burst. I'm very proud of my sense of wonder and grateful for its return. Right now I'm relaxing in my tent with a bowl of halfway decent Vicspryl and a mug of Saurian brandy, having just read the latest letter from Kieran. Apparently those rumors about DS9 were mostly true. A Jem'Hadar ship did attack the station, and now the entire Alpha Quadrant's at yellow alert. It wasn't the Defiant that was destroyed, it was the Aldebaran. The Da Vinci's still on its latest assignment, some 300-year-old ship that they found in the event horizon of a black hole. Kieran joked that they're going to try to tow it out with wires, as if that could possibly work. They're also ready to drop that at a moment's notice in case this really is a prelude to another war. I hope that it isn't. I don't think I could deal with another war so soon after the last one. I still have nightmares about that time the Sentinel was trapped behind enemy lines. I know I got a commendation for that, and everyone talks about how heroic I was for getting the warp drive back online and then recalibrating our shields and warp signatures so the Breen thought we were Cardassian. But the fact of the matter is, I was scared to death and running on pure adrenaline and instinct. Then again, Geordi gave me a commendation for helping get the shields back up when the Borg attacked way back when. I still have the foggiest idea what he was thinking. I was the greenest of green ensigns, staring off into space at the drop of a hat because 18 people died. Not that I should be blasé about death, of course. God, listen to me. I think I've been drinking synthahol too long. My system isn't used to the real stuff. That does it. No more of this damn brandy. I still haven't written a response to Kieran since the last letter. He's probably going to start worrying, but I just don't know what to say to him. At least he isn't pushing in these letters. That's typical, really. He never pulled his goofy aw shucks act or his come on go out with me again routine while on duty, and he wouldn't do it in an open channel either. What really gets me is that Razka asked me if he was my mate, and I almost said yes. And yet I haven't really thought about him all that much since I got here. Part of that is just the grind of the project, and part of it is probably just my predilection for avoiding anything unpleasant in my personal life. That's our Sonya Gomez. She can field strip a warp core, can fool a Breen into thinking that an Akira-class starship is a Cardassian freighter, can get a subspace accelerator built with substandard equipment and cranky workers, can defeat the mighty monster shii, but can't get her love life straightened out to save her life. The last time things were in danger of getting really serious with Kieran, I was promoted and transferred off the Enterprise. I wonder if I could have fought to stay on the ship. I mean, there had to be something an antimatter specialist at the full lieutenant level could do on the Enterprise. On the other hand, I could hardly pass up that project on the Oberth. On the third hand, I'm definitely giving up the brandy. It makes me way too philosophical. And maudlin. I just heard a scream. Better go check it out. Supplemental. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Letter from Commander Sonya Gomez on Sarindar to the family of Kajana on Nalor. 10th day of Sendrak, 23rd year of Tog. Gentle beings, you don't know me, but my name is Sonya Gomez. I was recently put in charge of the Sarindar project, for which Kajana, the head of your household, was the foreperson. I regret to inform you that Kajana is dead. I am sure you have heard the legends of the monster Shii on Sarindar. We had believed those legends to be false. It turns out that, like many legends, these have a basis in fact. A creature that fits the description in your culture's tales of the monster Shii attacked the camp and killed 3 people last week. I had killed the creature myself, and thought that was the last we'd seen of it. However, yesterday another creature attacked the camp. It is quite a bit larger than the animal that I killed. It went through our electrified fence like it was nothing, and went after the nearest people. Kajana was very brave. He leapt into the monster's path in order to save the life of another of the workers. He gave his life so that others would live. You would be very proud of how he died, though I know that that is small comfort to you right now. We are about to go out to hunt the creature down, but I wanted to take the time to compose this letter in case I don't make it back. I felt I owed it to Kajana to tell you myself about what happened. He was an excellent worker and a good man. I will miss him, and I will feel his loss deeply, though not, of course, as deeply as you. He spoke often of his family during evening meals, particularly how much he was looking forward to spending time with his son, Ravodro, when this project ended. I hope I get to convey my condolences in person. And again, I am very sorry for your loss. Sincerely, Commander Sonya Gomez. First Officer's Log, Commander Sonya Gomez, Planet Sarindar, Stardate 53283.1. There is a second monster shii on Sarindar. At 23:42 hours, it broke through the electrified fence that surrounds the work camp. Unlike the previous shii that I killed, and which murdered several workers, this one suffered no appreciable injury. It immediately ripped into the nearest tent, which belonged to Kajana, the foreperson, and 3 other Nalori, Erobnos, Kargane, and Huarner. The creature definitely killed Kajana, who leapt in front of an attack that would have decapitated Kargane, and was disemboweled, and gravely injured the other 3. The shii then carried all 4 bodies out of the camp. I witnessed most of this, having come to investigate when I first heard the screams of the Nalori being attacked. While I record this log entry, my assistant Razka is organizing a second hunting party. I have composed a hasty condolence letter to be sent to Kajana's family. If Erobnos, Kargane, and Huarner wind up killed, as I suspect will be the case, I will do the same for their families, assuming I survive. I fear that this creature will not be as easy to stop. Razka is calling me. The party is ready to go. To be continued in Invincible Book 2, which I will start next week. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have been enjoying this collaboration between myself and David Mack. Tune in next week when we will start Invincible Book 2. Please check me out online at DeCandido.net, read my blog at DeCandido.wordpress.com, and please, if you could support me on Patreon at patreon.com/KRAD, I'd be grateful. Thank you very much, and please stay safe.